Welcome to the B Block Podcast. I am your host, Brandon Scott. I appreciate you for joining me. I got to say, the All-Star Weekend, I feel like I took it in the right way, the proper way. I did not allow it to become, or at least rely on it to become like my sole entertainment for the weekend. Of course, it was Valentine's Day weekend. It's a holiday weekend, so the kids are out of school. For some reason, like, the kids do not go to school anymore. I don't know if any of the other parents that are in the audience might be able to identify with this, especially if your kids go to public school in the state of Texas, particularly in the Fort Bend Independent School District. But it seems like the kids don't go to school at all anymore. They were off for Valentine's Day and President's Day, which President's Day I get, but Valentine's Day and President's Day, I want to say they had early dismissal the day before Valentine's Day. So yeah, now I had a lot going on and plenty to do to not have to rely on the All-Star Weekend festivities to carry my entertainment pleasure for the weekend, or to really just even occupy my time. But I was able to drop in on it, drop in and out of it. And of course, as we know, there are parts of it that are more entertaining than others. And I didn't have to consume any more of it than what I felt to be necessary. So yeah, I watched pieces of the skills competition. I ain't watched the whole thing. I watched pieces of the 3-point shooting competition. I ain't watched the whole thing. And I watched pieces of the dunk contest. I ain't watched the whole thing. But at various points, when I dropped in and out, I enjoyed myself, got what I came there for. And I think that's what All-Star Weekend has become, an opt-in, opt-out sort of situation. You ain't got to demand a certain level of standard or anything from it. You can just simply not watch. You can just simply not participate. Or you can drop in and out of the things that you may find interesting, which is exactly what I did. And so I'm in a good space. I'll tell you that I did not watch the majority of the All-Star game. I watched parts of it, but I spent a good chunk of it talking to Big Sarge from Big Sarge Sports Media, Locked On Texans. You, of course, seen him around or become familiar with his work, whether you realize it or know it or not. Great friend of the show, great friend of the program. So we did that. And I didn't feel like I needed to be all up in the All-Star business, but I do have a couple of All-Star takeaways that I want to share. One of them was the one I just gave you. It's opt-in, opt-out. You ain't got to be there for the whole damn thing. And I feel like I did it the right way. Just dropped in and out of the stuff that I actually wanted to be a part of. The other thing, the dunk contest, I feel like we've learned some lessons here. And these are the lessons that I've learned from the experience in this particular dunk contest. One, let's just say this. Stephon Castle on the dunk from under from through the net and under the legs reverse that didn't get all 50s. He had a couple of 49s and it wasn't an all 50. He got robbed in that way. I'm not saying he would have won the competition, because Matt McClung deserved to win the competition and was going to win one way or the other. I feel like he just had way more dunks, way more tricks up his sleeve. He was able to complete all of the dunks on the first try. So it didn't seem like he was out there practicing. It was clear that he had done all of his practicing before he got there for the competition. And for that reason alone, I feel like he was going to win. But not getting all 50s for Stephon Castle on that one dunk is one of the all-time robberies in slam dunk contest history. I think another one was 2009 with DeMar DeRozan out there. Was it 2009 or 2011? Whatever year it was that Blake Griffin won because he jumped over the car the first time somebody tried to jump over a car, and he didn't quite do it like Matt McClung just did it. But he won that one. I thought DeMar DeRozan gave a much better performance and had a much better outing out there than what anybody will ever remember from that All-Star or from that particular dunk contest, because Blake Griffin won it. But this one is that times a million. This one is an egregious, I think, oversight by the judges on how difficult of it. I know he took a few times or a few tries to get it done, but to me, it was an egregious oversight and just unfair treatment of that dunk, unfair appreciation for what that dunk actually was. So I would say, number one, opt in, opt out. You don't have to rely on it as your sole entertainment for the weekend, and therefore you don't have to spend Monday and the next part of the week complaining about it and trying to figure out ways to fix it. Number two, Stephon Castle deserved better. Absolutely deserved better. Number three, and this is right before we get to Big Sarge, I want to get to that interview because we spent a good time talking about all kind of shit. Eggs, the Texans, Rockets, Astros, we hit on it all. Yes, we did talk about the price of eggs. You'll have to stick around to hear about that. But also, with Matt McClung becoming the first guy to win 3 times in a row. Okay, Matt McClung becoming the first 3-peat champion in slam dunk contest history. And Matt McClung also being somebody that doesn't really play in the NBA. He's part of an NBA organization. He is a G League player, is a very accomplished G League player, and was a very accomplished high school player, but does not really play on NBA teams and would not be a household name if not for this particular competition. The fact that he's been able to do this and the way that he's been able to do it, with the flair that he's been able to do it with the quality of dunks that he's been able to do this with, it is confirmation, affirmation, however you want to look at it, that you do not need stars for the dunk contest. The dunk contest does not need stars. The dunk contest needs quality and entertaining dunks. And that is why Matt McClung versus Stephon Castle was as compelling as it was. Not because Matt McClung is a G League star for what he is on the basketball floor. Not because Stephon Castle is an emerging rookie, somebody that if you follow the college game, you're familiar with his game and familiar with his work, but he is not anything close to a star or a household name at this point. You did not need either one of those guys to be that to appreciate what you were watching with that dunk contest. You don't need Matt McClung to log heavy NBA minutes. Hell, you don't need him to log no NBA minutes to appreciate what he's doing out there in the dunk competition. And you can just appreciate it for what it is. Pure entertainment. Now, would it be a greater draw if, say, Ja Morant and Giannis Antetokounmpo were in the dunk contest, as they sort of seemed like they were joking about on social media after this? Yeah, that would be a bigger draw. Yeah, that would get you into the dunk contest a little bit more. Yeah, that would get you to want to watch it ahead of time more. Sure, it would make it appointment viewing more, but that's something for the league to care about and consider. I'm talking about just as a straight up consumer. What do you get the most out of with the dunk contest? What would be the optimal experience for you as a fan? And that is to have quality dunks. That is to be entertained by what's happening out there. And I feel like that's exactly what's happened with these McClung dunk contests, and especially this most recent one, with Stephon Castle out there giving him a damn run for his money. And as I mentioned, not getting the credit that he deserved for that under the net, under the leg reverse. That was insane. I've never even heard of or considered a dunk like that it could happen or somebody would even think to do it. And that was the special part about this. Both guys had dunks that you didn't actually, not only had you never seen, but you hadn't really maybe conceptualized or thought about. That's what made it special. But not the quality of the names or the star power associated with it. You don't need that. I think you can just as quickly get a dunk contest with non-stars that's quality as you could get one with stars that's not quality. Because look, it ain't gonna matter if Ja Morant or Giannis Antetokounmpo or Zion or somebody that you recognize and want to be in the dunk contest. It ain't gonna matter if they go out there and it's whack, right? The dunks still got to be the dunks. It's still got to be the quality that you're seeing with the McClungs and the Stephon Castles of the world. Go back and look historically. I know that there have been stars that have won it. Okay, you had Michael and Dominique back in the day, and of course, you've had Kobe win it. You had Vince Carter win it. You've had, you had Dwight Howard. You had stars win this thing, but you didn't need. Think about it. One of the greatest dunk contests ever was almost a decade ago now between Zach LaVine and Aaron Gordon, right? And neither one of those dudes was necessarily a household name or a star at the time. And neither of them actually really became a superstar. I know Zach LaVine has been the best player on the team, and that Aaron Gordon is a part of a championship team, and both players have carved out really good careers for themselves, but those aren't stars. Certainly not superstars. And they gave you one of the greatest dunk contests of all time because of the quality of the competition, the quality of the dunks that they were giving you. Nate Robinson, who won it a gang full of times. We knew Nate Robinson. There was a novelty about Nate Robinson, his size and his mix of size and athleticism, the fact that he was that small doing the things that he was doing. But he wasn't no household name. He wasn't no superstar. It was the quality of the dunks that he was giving you. Jason Richardson gave you some of the best dunks that you've ever seen in a dunk contest. Not a star. Somebody that if you're a hoop head, you knew obviously from his, Michigan State days, like a known player, but never a star. Quality of the competition, quality of the dunks. That's what we need. That's what we absolutely need. So, yeah, man, I was entertained when I checked in, and when it was time to check out, I checked out, and I didn't feel a need to complain about it, about whatever I didn't like about it. Did I understand exactly what they had going on All-Star Night? And was I glad to be recording this podcast with Sarge instead of having to figure that shit out? Sure. But I ain't feel like I needed to complain about it. I feel like we got to complain about every damn thing. They've changed the three-point shooting competition a bit. I still dug it. I still enjoyed watching Buddy Hield go out there and match the most in a round that his teammate Steph Curry had done before. The best shooter ever, sitting right there courtside, his current teammate right there in San Francisco doing it in that building. I thought that was cool. And then for Tyler Hero to come and win it, which, by the way, I did not see the ending of. So I heard Tyler Hero won it, but he barely got even got into the round that he got into it to advance. Like, it's fine. It's fine. You don't have to complain about everything. You don't even have to fucking watch if you don't want to. It's the truth. But I had fun. I thought it was good. And I thought that I also consumed it the way it should be consumed. Not as this highly critical, what do we have to fix about the All-Star game type of shit, but have fun where the fun is being had. Anyway, speaking of fun, got to talk with Big Sarge of Big Sarge Sports Media, also of the Locked On Texans podcast. We went for a little over an hour or so on the price of eggs, the state of the Texans, where we're at with the Rockets right now. Is the Astros dynasty over with as Alex Bregman is introduced to the Boston Red Sox public after signing with them? And the Astros got these outfield problems, talking about putting Jose Altuve out there. And us trying to decide, is that an outfield problem or is that a second base problem? Or is it both? Is the answer just flat out yes? Either way, here's that interview with my guy, Big Sarge from Big Sarge Sports Media. Hope you enjoy. Say, man, how much did eggs cost when you were growing up, man? How much did y'all pay for eggs in your household?
B. Scott, now hold on, bro. Hold on. You already gonna throw me out there, throw me under the bus already, calling me old? Cause you calling me old. Cause you basically what you just asked me was, back in your day, when you had to walk 13 miles to school and y'all had 3 channels on the television, how much did eggs cost back then?
See, you put yourself out there. I ain't gonna see. Look, and this is if y'all don't know, this is Big Sarge Media at Big Sarge Sports with a Z. That is, and follow wherever you get your podcast and YouTube, Locked On Texans and all that. This is Big Sarge talking, man. Look, you put yourself out there, man. I ain't saying nothing about you being old. The fact of the matter is, you can be a lot younger than you and remember when eggs didn't cost what they cost now and wasn't as hard to get as they are today.
Yeah, B, but when I say that eggs was like 75 to 80 cents a dozen when I
Yeah.
grew up, you don't even know what that was like. I mean,
No,
listen,
no,
I
I'm gonna tell you, they were $1 when I grew up. So you grew up in the 80s and 90s. I grew up in the 90s and 2000s. Is that fair?
Well, no, I grew up in the 70s, so mine may have been a little bit cheap. I may have been fudging the numbers just a little bit to make myself seem a little bit older. I mean, seem a little bit younger, I guess. But now, B, eggs. I put it like this: they wasn't $17. Tell you that much. They wasn't. Look, they didn't cost as much as a first date does right now. So pretty soon be they go. You know how when you go to the grocery stores and they have like the baby formula locked up. They got baby formula locked up. They got cigarettes locked up. They got, I don't know if I can say this or not. So if not, you're gonna have to bleep this out. They got condoms locked up.
All the stuff that people gonna steal.
And next thing you know, it's gonna be eggs. Like they're gonna have eggs in clear cases where you're gonna have to call a manager to come with a key to unlock it. But B, things were a whole lot cheaper back in my day, man. And right now, I'm telling you, my wife and I, we were at the grocery store, and I just like, I honestly and truly can't believe the price of eggs. Hey, look, let me tell you something. Don't be surprised if I hit you up and you answer the phone, you be like, oh, what's going on, Sarge? I'll be like, hey, look, bro, just let you know I got them eggs just in case y'all looking for them.
Oh, you know what you sound like?
What's that?
I remember, I'll never forget this. In 2008, when the economy got real bad and gas, it went real high and it was close to $4 a gallon.
Yep.
And I'll never forget at the tire shop across from Windsor Village Park, man, they were selling gas for $3 a gallon. And that might sound wild to you. $3 a gallon, what? But everybody was paying $4. And so if you knew what was going on over there, you knew you could go get your tank filled up for $3 a gallon. And man, it was a hit. And that wasn't all they was selling out of there, but tires, gas, and anything else they really could be sold that they might have.
And gas, but we'll talk about that another time.
Exactly. But you knew you could get your tank filled up. That's what that reminded me of. Gas on the low, eggs on the low.
Telling you, B, I'm pumped to the side and be like, hey, look, they fresh too. Look at them. You know what? Because I like you, I'm gonna give you one to try. Here you go. This one for the free. Then when you come back, you just make sure you get half a dozen to a dozen from me.
Yeah. I only asked you, man, because I can just remember 20 years ago. Exactly 20 years ago, I was working at Walgreens. And so I'm a teenager at this point, working at Walgreens. And I remember, Walgreens hit you put a little convenience tax anyway. Things are going to be higher there than they would be at a grocery store. Everybody knows that.
For sure.
But people would come in there and the eggs, like it would be a big deal when we had them on sale for 99 cents because they'd be $2. Yep. And I remember people come in there and they'd be $2 and they'd be offended because they grew up in the 70s and 80s. And they're like, the idea that the eggs could be $2 was just offensive. To the point they might even take it out on the teenager that don't know nothing, that don't know up from down, what it's supposed to be.
Exactly.
Then you fast forward to now, man, and the way it's looking, it's like I wonder what if I could have told those customers back then 20 years ago that it would look the way it looks now, what they would have said, man.
Almost $6 for a dozen. $6 for a dozen. I'm saying to myself, I could have sworn I just was in here. And look, I know I was complaining when they was like $2.47, $2.97. Yeah. So yeah, I don't understand being it's going to be one of those things because also growing up, I looked at the price of eggs. I really probably didn't look at them too much because my mom, God rest her soul, was raising 3 kids. We were on government assistance, and so we were being helped out a little bit. There was no such thing as an EBT card. You had to walk in there with the colored money, the purple, the red, the green, and the brown.
I know that life. I remember that life, man. I worked at Fiesta, my first job, and seen a lot of that, man. The thing that really got me is funny when I saw your tweet about the eggs, because the thing that really got me thinking about it, of course, we had written something about it at the Chronicle, but the thing that got me thinking about it was last week when I was in New Orleans for Radio Row.
Yeah.
And we went out late, and it was one of those situations where, we trying to just get something quick and get back to the house, because we've been out late, want to get something quick, man. I ordered an omelet at a little mom and pop spot. I'm not going to say the name of it because, things didn't work out so great, man. When I tell you I ordered an omelet and it took them 45 minutes to make me an omelet.
What?
45 minutes. Now, I don't think this had nothing to do with the price of eggs. I think it had a little bit more to do with, user error or the incompetence of the people that was working there and understaffing and that sort of thing. But it did make me think, like, man, did they have to go? Do they not have the eggs? Do they have to go find that shit, man? Like, what is really going on? Like, why would it take 45 to 50 minutes to make me an omelet? I could have went back there and made it myself in 10 minutes.
They was waiting on a dealer to come through with the Lucy's.
Somebody with the eggs on the low. Somebody with the eggs on the low. They still had it on the menu, but they knew they needed to go find somebody with the eggs on the low before they could really deliver.
For sure.
Yeah, man. But that ain't what I brought you here to talk about. As fun as that was to do, man. We got a lot going on in Houston sports. Of course, both of us are on the scene. You probably like none other on the scene. And you were there for Nick Caley's introductory press conference last week with DeMeco Ryans. Of course, the Texans introducing Nick Caley as their new offensive coordinator after firing Bobby Slowick after 2 seasons. And of course, we should mention, in case the people don't know, you are the co-host of the Locked On Texans podcast. So, and you've been covering the Texans even before that, but now doing this daily show, people really come to you even more, I think, than they ever have to hear your daily opinions on what's going on with this team. And so, since you were there front and center, man, and I was tuned in, ready to do a show, listening to what was going on. But I am interested in your first impressions of the Texans' new offensive coordinator and sort of this situation that they got going on offensively right now.
Oh, the one thing that I like about Nick Caley is his energy. And not to say that Bobby didn't have energy, but he didn't have the energy that Nick Caley does. And I'm going to tell you're one of the people who can relate to this, Brandon, because you've been around this guy. He has that same type of energy that Nick Caserio has. And, you've been in the room with Nick and you see the type of energy that he has. And that's exactly the same type of energy that Nick Caley has. And so I love the fact that he had a lot of energy. I love the fact that he enunciated his words with a lot of energy. But B, I'm gonna be honest with you. It's one of those things for me where I'm like, I just need to see. I need to see it. Like I can hear it. Like you can put together a well-written speech. You can put together a well-written press conference, so you can handle a press conference very well. Bobby Slowick did his as well. But I need to see it. And so that's where my reservations lie. My reservation lies in I need to see the actions and the words match each other. And so I like I said, I love the things that he said. I love the way that he said them. I love the energy that DeMeco had with him. But B, I just need to see a little bit more because I don't want to crown this guy or I don't want to criticize this guy and not give him a fair shake. So that's why I'm standing on the outside looking in like, okay, well, let me see what happens in OTAs. Let me see what happens in training camp. Let me see what happens in the preseason. Let me see what happens the first 7 games before I start saying, okay, I like him or I don't like him. What I will tell you though, B, is this. He's on the clock. The time is ticking. All the mistakes that all the grace that would have been given to a first-year offensive coordinator to make mistakes, Bobby took all those. Yeah. So now the Texans fans are looking at him with Bobby Slowick glasses on. And so, hey, are you going to mess up or are you going to, succeed? Anything that slightly resembles anything what that Texans offense looked like when it wasn't successful with Bobby Slowick, everybody's going to start talking about, oh, here we go again. So I just need to see it.
Yeah, I'm glad that you and I both are willing to have an opinion that says, hey, it's hard to have a strong opinion on somebody that you don't know anything about in this particular role. And it's okay to say that. Like, it feels like there is a rush sometimes to just like have the strongest opinion about somebody. It's a great hire. It's a terrible hire. I can't believe they did this. Oh, it's going to be the next best thing. And it's like, man, you are lying to yourself and you're lying to your audience or the public or whoever it is that you're talking to if you try to pretend like you're able to just predict off the rip that this is going to be a success or a failure. And so this was a similar opinion that I had on the radio the day before he spoke. It was, I want to give him a fair shake, but I want to be careful about overreacting to winning or losing the press conference, because it wouldn't shock me, Sarge, for him to win the press conference, that he would be trained to win the press conference. And if he lost it, that wouldn't disqualify him either. Not from this role, not from play calling, not from developing relationships with the players and with installing an offense and all of those things. He could lose the press conference and still be able to do those things. He could win the press conference and still not be able to do those things.
Exactly.
And so it's hard to just be like, man, yeah, this is going to be great. And then it's also hard to be like, man, nah, I can't believe that they did this. You understand why they made the move that they made. And then you're just trying to me, the whole point of the press conference is just to have it for the record, to have him saying what his philosophies are, feeling that energy, understanding like what kind of guy this is that we're going to be dealing with on a week in and week out basis. But other than that, man, it's hard to be like, this is a pass or fail just on the first look.
Yeah, and with that being said, I'm looking at it. I'm so tired of. Look, I understand what the New England Patriots offense looked like when Josh McDaniels was there, when Nick Caley was there, when Nick Caserio was there, Bill Belichick, Tom Brady. I know what the offense looks like under Sean McVay, with Matt Stafford, with Pika Nakul, with Cooper Kupp, with everything that they have. I know what those things look like. I've seen them. As a matter of fact, I just finished watching the game between I think it was the playoff game between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Rams, just to get an idea and get an idea of something similar of maybe what the Texans offense could look like. But with that being said, oh wait, side note, B, I figured out why he chose Houston over everybody else.
Do tell.
The reason why I feel like he chose Houston over everybody else, if you go back and you look at the Rams, right, this past season, the Rams had a very good. Can I cuss on this show?
Of course.
They had a damn good defense. They had a damn good defense. That defense is amazing. And what did they do? They always went out there and pretty much got the ball back for the offense to give them more possessions. Like that defense. And I'm watching them, saying to myself, oh, now I get it. Because their defense is exactly like the Houston Texans defense. Oh, we mess up on offense, the defense can go and get us the ball back. And so I think that even though he had the weapons of, he looked at having Joe Mixon, CJ Stroud, having Nico Collins, having what he has on the offense side of the ball, things that he could work with him. He's saying to himself, yo, but this defense, even if I mess up, they can go out and they can get me the ball back. So as I digress, B, I know what that was the reason why I felt like one of the strongest reasons I felt like, and I could be wrong, I won't know until we talk to him more. But B, I've looked at the New England Patriots offense. I've looked at the Sean McVay offense. I know that both of those offenses were successful, but those offenses weren't successful under Nick Caley calling plays. So please, 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 I'm asking you all to stop trying to shove this. This is what the Houston Texans offense is going to look like under Nick Caley. This is what they did in New England. Well, New England was New England, and this is what they did under the Rams. Well, the Rams is the Rams. I'm so glad he said during the press conference that when they asked him what is the Houston Texans offense, what is it going to look like? Is it going to look like the Patriots, or is it going to look like the Rams? He said it's going to look like Houston, and that's what I love, because he isn't these guys. He's Nick Caley, and he was in the room. But Bobby has been in the room of successful offenses too, and it didn't work out.
So let me ask you a different question, Sarge. A different question, but related to that same point. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Forget the Rams and the Patriots for a second.
Yeah.
Talk about the Texans offense.
Mm-hmm.
The offense that we're actually dealing with and what's in front of us. We know some of the issues that they had, some of the things that ailed this offense, the offensive line not playing up to, I think, the expectation. And of course, they had some injuries with their weapons, and that probably didn't live up to the expectation either. But when it comes down to the offensive coordinator, and we understand that Bobby Slowick is gone for a reason, Nick Caley has been brought in for a reason. Okay, so with all of that in mind, Sarge, what I'm asking you is, what does the Texans offense need? Like, what is the job in front of Nick Caley in your eyes as you see it?
the main thing, and this is probably going to be one of the most unpopular answers that you get from this question, but the main thing they need is a guy who knows how to adjust. Something that Bobby Slowick was terrible at. Bobby Slowick could not adjust. That's why the Houston Texans looked the way that they did in the second halves of a lot of games, because the defensive coordinators from the opposing teams would go in and would make the necessary adjustments to what Bobby Slowick's offense was doing. Then Bobby Slowick come out there and try to do the same thing, and they've already made the necessary adjustments. So now you look crazy. I use this example all the time, and this was the game where this was the game that Bobby got put on notice, and what started his demise and started his downfall with the Houston Texans, and had more eyes. When I say more eyes, I mean more eyes now focusing in on him. The Detroit Lions game, right? The Detroit Lions game where the Texans, were winning at the half. They came back out and they didn't score a point in the second half. And they made Jared Goff, they forced Jared Goff into 5 interceptions. That was the most interceptions. I think Jared Goff only ended the season with like 11 or 12, and 5 of them came in that game, and like 4 or 5 came in another game. But with the Texans forcing him to throw 5 turnovers and you still lose, and now you lose.
And the Ass Sarge, I want to say they had 3 drives in that first half where they were up, right? Where that should have been touchdowns that were actually field goals. One of them in which Joe Mixon landed them in the red zone inside the 5-yard line and ended up kicking a field goal. Like, they had missed opportunities even within that lead that they had built.
Exactly. And so now you go back and you look and you say, well, what happened? Well, Bobby wasn't able to adjust in the second half, and they looked crazy. And so I specifically asked Bobby Slowick during a press conference, what happens at the half? Like, I asked him about the adjustments, and he said, well, there isn't any secret stuff. There isn't nothing that they're doing in the second half they didn't do in the first half. And I'm saying, well, and I didn't say this to him, but I'm thinking to myself, well, going back to that Lions game, I looked at Ben Johnson as he watched Jared Goff throw 5 interceptions and said, you know what, scrap all that. Look, you gave the ball away 5 times. Cool. Don't worry about it. Come here. We're adjusting. Let's do this, and let's just start inching our way back into the game. And if we can inch our way back into the game, we can win the game. And that's what happened. You look at these play callers who were willing to make the adjustments. I'll give you another example. He didn't make the necessary adjustments that needed to be in the Green Bay Packers game. And then they played. Now, that game went down, and it was him and D'Amico's fault as well, because they didn't have good time management, and you played too much to kick the field goal. But there wasn't enough adjustments made, and we've seen that week in and week out. We asked him those questions. What is going on in the second half? And so I feel like with Nick Caley, the biggest adjustment he's going to make to the Houston Texans offense is the ability to adjust, the ability to give CJ Stroud more. Listen, our good friend DJ BNMA wrote an article on ESPN, and he put it out about talking about how the protection calls and things like that with CJ. And I said to myself, hey, no, don't get me wrong, that's a great article. And I said, but I think I told y'all that as well earlier on in the year. And I even asked Bobby about CJ's ability, the ability to be able to audible, because one thing, B, that that Shanahan tree is a lot like the Kubiak tree. And Kubiak, when Gary Kubiak wouldn't let Matt Schaub audible at the line. Trust the play. That's all he kept saying, trust the play. So that's all I want to be. That's all I want to see. That's how I think that the Houston Texans offense gets going, with the ability to be able to adjust. You're going to give CJ Stroud more power. And if you're going to keep Kenyon Green, I'm just saying, nobody wants to keep Kenyon Green, but they talk about running. They're talking about changing the scheme from a zone blocking scheme to a true run scheme. And remember, when he was at Texas A&M, he dominated in a run scheme like that. So nobody wants to give him a chance. I say give him one more chance, and if it doesn't work out, then move on. But, I want to see the resurgence of Kenyon Green.
Yeah, if I was to say the things that I like about, well, first of all, on the point about Bobby Slowick, and I want to say that we talked about this before, but I've said this in multiple places. Bobby Slowick would have got a passing grade in, say, script writing. Like, he might have even got a B. He might have even been an above average student in script writing, but in improv, he would have been terrible. Like when it's time to act on the fly, he just did not have it. Like, and it's time, like, to your point, when it's time to make the adjustment, the script not that bad. It's and not now. It wasn't always great.
Yeah,
because I remember that Minnesota script where they had Kay Stover try to block Jonathan Grenard, and it happened twice. They did it twice. They had the nerve to do it twice, and it didn't work out either time.
He felt disrespected after the game about that too.
As he should have. Well, you know what? And I understand him feeling disrespected, Sarge. But honestly, like, I don't know if that was his disrespect as much as it was just like foolishness.
Yes.
You know, like, I mean, surely you know who Jonathan Grenard is because he was on your team last year. And so, like, that's just not, I don't know. But the script wasn't always terrible, but the improv was really bad. I'll say this, though, about Nick Caley. The thing that I like about his background, and this is not me predicting, again, his success or failure, because I do not know. For the love of God, I'm just going to be honest with you. I do not know if he's going to be good or bad at this or somewhere in between. But I am encouraged by his background as a run game coordinator, somebody that has worked more intricately with the run game, and as somebody that has actually been a position coach, specifically tight ends. And I think we also know that that's been a little bit of an issue of them trying to figure out how to best use their tight ends within the scheme and within the personnel, trying to match the scheme with the personnel that they actually have. And so I am hopeful that Nick Caley will be somebody that can marry those things. Like Bobby Sloyd couldn't really scheme up a run game. They got better in the run game this past year, but that was mostly just because they added Joe Mixon as their running back. It didn't really have anything to do with how the offense was coordinated or how the plays were called. And so that's the thing that I'm looking out for, Sarge, is can Nick Caley scheme up a run game? Does his background, his coaching background, lend itself to that being a thing that he can do? And then also, Sarge, I would say this, man, building that relationship with C.J. Stroud. You know, like, this is an interesting data point for me, or an interesting thing to follow for me, is how does he go about building that trust? With Bobby and CJ going back a couple of years ago, they were both new. They were both rookies at the position, and they were kind of able to, I don't feel like either one was kind of in a position to, stick their chest out, whether one would or wouldn't. I don't feel like they were in that position because they were both rookies and kind of coming along together. CJ's kind of established himself now, and Nick Caley is coming in to fix a thing, something that went wrong. And he is what's being put in his responsibility is, to a large degree, CJ Stroud's future and career. Like, not all on him, but in large part, like how this offense runs and how it's coordinated and how the plays are called will have an impact on CJ Stroud's career. So developing that relationship, making sure that it's airtight, A1, and just having that trust on top of the schematic part about figuring out a run game, how to best use the tight ends. Those are the things that I'm looking forward to.
Me too, John. John. Look, you can tell I'm so used to.
We all family. Hey, they do the same thing. My mama to this day calls me Johnny because that's her brother's name, and she grew up with him for as long as I was alive. So yeah, I got you.
Look, I'm like so used to talking to John, but B, I like that. And one of the things that I said on the Locked On Texas podcast was two things, actually. One, Nick Caley being a position coach, being a tight ends coach is going to benefit him greatly when it comes to evaluating what he has in that tight end room. He's going to be looking directly at Dalton Schultz to see if he's an asset or a liability. He's going to be able to tell that right off the rip. Now, no offense against what's tight ends coach name? Jake Moreland, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
No, no offense to him, but you're talking about a guy who coached a Hall of Fame tight end in Gronkowski, and knowing what it takes to play that position where you can use a guy who can play with his hand in the dirt, but you can also stand him up. And that's why I feel like you're going to have to learn and look at early if Dalton Schultz is for you, because if not, I feel like, I'm not saying that Cade Stover is going to have the same career as Gronkowski. I just feel like you could put him in similar situations and with his hand in the dirt or standing up, something that he did when he was at Ohio State, and he has good chemistry with CJ Stroud. So at the very least, that safety blanket that every quarterback has in that trust in his tight end, if Dalton Schultz doesn't have it, if he becomes a liability more than an asset, and like I said, that's something Nick Caley is going to be able to see on film and throughout OTAs and training camp, then you might want to start putting, K Stover in there, getting him a little bit more. You're getting Brevin Jordan back. But the second thing is this, B, because you bring up an interesting point when you say what Nick Caley is getting and how he has to develop that relationship with CJ Stroud. A lot of it is also tied to D'Amico. And the reason why I say it's tied to D'Amico is you've already put your quarterback in one system, and now you're about to put him into a whole nother system. You got to make sure you got this offense coordinator hire right, because CJ is going to get a bag when it's time for him to get a bag. And once you give him that bag, you don't want him going and being in his, going into his 6th year or 7th year, and now all of a sudden he's in his 3rd system. He's going into another offensive system. So Nick Caley has to get this right. The only person that thrives in those type of situations, because of who he is, but he has a lot of talent around him. You look at the Philadelphia Eagles situation and Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is he's going to be in his 4th system. Now that Kellen Moore is gone, he's going to be in another offensive system. But what they do have is they have a good offensive line. They got a good running back, and they got good wide receivers, and they got a good defense. So if you're going to put all that around CJ and continue to switch in and out the offensive coordinator, and what I mean by it's tied to D'Amico, sure, if Nick Caley gets an opportunity to get a head coaching job, that's one thing. But if Nick Caley fails and you have to fire him like you did Bobby Slowick, now you're going to have to start looking at D'Amico and saying, hey, man, I think you only got maybe one more chance to get this thing right.
Yeah. No, you don't. I don't feel like you get too many offensive coordinator hires. Now, maybe if he's able to still manage to win 10 games in all of those seasons where he still decides to fire the offensive coordinator, maybe the balance of that could help him out. But you don't get to, like, GMs don't usually get to hire too many coaches, and then you could just go down the list, right? If you usually your staff in most cases is a reflection of your own leadership, right? Like how they perform or how often it's turned over, why it's turning over. Like, it's one thing if these guys are having success and they're going out and getting other jobs and you're just having to replace it in that way. And the Eagles, they had both, right? They had the 2 coordinators first go get the jobs in Gannon and Steichen, and then they replaced those coordinators, and the ones that they replaced them with didn't work out. So they've gone both routes with this in terms of why they had to do so much of that turnover. But no, I agree with you, man. I don't feel like, and when I was saying that you're entrusting CJ Stroud's career with this guy, that's what I'm talking about. Like, if you're having to continue to cycle out offensive coordinators, not because of success, but because of failure, that's going to have an impact on your quarterback, right? Let's not lose sight of the fact that while CJ Stroud is still a hell of a football player, like, watching him have the season that he had to impact the decision, had to impact, like, the overall, like, state of affairs with the offense. Like, you wanting to get CJ Stroud back to what he was as a rookie, and even the signs that you saw from him, the flashes that you saw from him in year 2, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not one of those things where he fell off a cliff. It was just like, man, I see that it's there. I just don't know why it's not clicking. Somebody's got to answer for this. So, like, you don't want to waste CJ Stroud, right? No. Like for his own purposes individually, but also for the team, from the team standpoint, you don't want to waste the production of this guy. I would also say, man, like, look, this is also going to be, to me, about, like, what they do with the offensive line and how the offensive, like, what direction they go in. And this is also something that I want to ask you, man, because I think this is interesting. And you kind of hit on this earlier, like, the idea of them maybe going a little bit away from what they have been doing and maybe going to a more traditional type of blocking scheme. If you had to say, man, and we're around these guys, you probably more than most, what do you feel like the guys that are likely to be around. Like Kenyon Green is probably his own case because that's like he's going to be around next year, but man, he's going to be fighting for a job now, man. He's going to be fighting for a job, honestly. I thought he was this past season. He ended up being a starter. But if you had to say, man, what do you feel like they either want to do or would be best at? Like my question to you basically, like how do you feel like you get the best out of this offensive line as it is situated?
So here's the thing, B. And when you look at this offensive line, it's funny because let's just say we're going to look at the lineup that had Laramie Tunsil at left tackle and Kenyon Green at right guard. The crazy part about left guard, excuse me. It had Kenyon Green at left guard, had Laramie Tunsil at left tackle. The crazy part is both of them are good, but they're really good. They're both only good in one aspect. And if you could get both of them to do the same thing, and just hear me out here. Laramie Tunsil is by far one of the best left tackles. He's top 5 left tackle in the game. He is going to make sure that CJ stays upright no matter what. But if you got to run his way, you may not get the best production out of Laramie Tunsil. And that's no knock at Laramie Tunsil. He's just better at pass protection than he is run blocking. And I don't think that I'm telling anybody, people who watch the game, you already know. And that's the opposite for Kenyon Green. Kenyon Green is very good at run blocking, getting to that second level, even going up against some of the talent that he had to go up against in his rookie year. But he's not a good, he's not good at pass protection, and he lost too much weight. Kenyon Green came into training camp too light, and as a guard, and that interior where it's physical, man-to-man, man-to-man, hand-to-hand, physical contact at the snap of the ball right away. You can't be that light if you don't have a base. But what he is good is he's good in run blocking. And you got to look at it like this too. Kenyon Green is going into his third offensive system as well because he was a rookie. Then he got hurt. And then he was out for Bobby Slowick's first year. He came back Bobby Slowick's second year, his first year back from injury. And now he's going into a Nick Caley type system. So you're going to look at it and be like, okay, what are you going to get out of him? And people think that people think, hey, man, you act like you Kenyon Green's uncle. No, I'm not saying I'm Kenyon Green's uncle, but I am looking at a guy who was a 2-time consensus All-American when he was in college. And you don't just drop off like that. You don't. So nobody's ever really taught Kenyon Green how to pass block, especially not pass block in the NFL. And then you bring him back, and him and the rest of the offensive line is under a offensive line coach who acts like he's never seen a delayed blitz or a stunt in his life. And that's the one thing that I asked the former Texans offensive line coach Chris Strauss, like, what are you all doing to stop these delayed blitzes and these stunts that has been happening to you? That started happening to them in week 2 against Chicago.
Yeah. Chicago
was the first one to do that. And it was just a copycat league, and every other team started to do it. And I'm going to tell you when it kind of stopped just a tad bit. One of the best offensive line combinations they put out there was when it was Tunsil at left tackle, Titus Howard at left guard, you had Patterson at center, you had Juice at right guard, and you had Blake Fisher at right tackle. I think that was by far the best line combination that they had. I just think, don't get me wrong, I like Shaq Mason. Shaq Mason's a good person, and I think that Shaq Mason is serviceable for the Houston Texans, but I think that he may be serviceable as a backup, just like I think Kenyon Green may be serviceable as a backup. But here's the thing. The one of the best things that the Houston Texans did was they retained Cole Popovich, someone who those players really, really like. That offensive line really, really likes Cole Popovich. And B, I'm going to tell you this right here on the B Block podcast. Cole Popovich was telling Strausser how they could stop the delayed blitz and how they could stop the stunts. And he wouldn't do it, B. He just wouldn't do it. He was hard-headed, right? And what I mean by hard-headed is, I'm going to do this my way. Even though you have to do it, even though you know these guys are telling you what's best, he's not listening. Now, With that being said, B, I'm also say this. That's the exact same way that Bobby Slowick was. Some of those players were going to Bobby and telling him, Bobby, this is not working. These things are not working. Some of his coaches was coming to him and telling him, hey, Bobby, this isn't working. This thing isn't working. And he was just like, okay. But his whole thing was always what? Trust the play. One thing Chris Strausser would say, hey, you just got to trust the protection. No, I don't have trust in none of this because it's not working. Another person, Ben McDaniel, used to tell the wide receivers, hey, just trust the route. Why am I trusting the route when I know there's an open space and I know CJ could see me if I'm in that open space, but you still got me running. You still got me running 10 to 12-yard routes. And see, CJ doesn't have the time. And like I said, now you got two people in Bobby Slowick who's not calling plays for the ball to come out of CJ's hands fast enough because he's behind a bad offensive line. And you have Cole I'm about to say Cole Strausser. You have Chris Strausser, who is like, no, we're not going to do that. So, B, I know you asked me about the offensive line, so I had to throw that in there, though.
Hey, no, that's important, though, because it goes also to the point that we were making earlier about the relationship building and the trust and your career being in the hands of this person. Like, these are the conflicts and these are the important interpersonal aspects of the game. Like, beyond just the scheme and the X's and O's, like, this is how you get to the scheme and the X's and O's, like the trust or lack thereof, the communication or the lack of communication or ineffective communication in this case, right? So all of that's going to be important, man. And I'm glad you mentioned the whole Strausser, because obviously the offensive line coach, in case y'all didn't know, and I'm sure you do know by now, Chris Strausser, the offensive line coach, was fired. That was the thing we were most expecting, even though we had a feeling that Bobby was going to be going to the Strausser thing seemed pretty much automatic. They retain Cole Popovich, or basically elevate him from assistant offensive line coach to offensive line coach. But the key here is I want the audience to hear this part. Don't focus so much on the fact, and what you said is important, Sarge, about the relationship that they already have.
Yeah.
But just in terms of this hire, don't focus on the fact that he is somebody that was already there that's been elevated, because that might make you jaded to the results that you've already seen and the things that you don't like about what's been going on so far, and focus more so on the fact that he is more likely than not aligned with the new head coach, right? Because they work together, and they work together in New England, and they got the Nick Caserio tie. Whether you like that or not, all of that is like a part of this. That's a factor here. Then go back to what you said, right? There's a bridge there. He knows the new coach. He knows the important players that are still going to be on the team. He's got relationships with both.
Yep.
Right. And so it should be like a connective tissue, if you will. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, he's aligned with the new coach, but also seemingly aligned with the players. And it's his own discussion on which players are going to still be here and which players are not. We'll figure all of that out. There's salary cap stuff where, Shaq Mason might be better off to them gone if they can save the money, and that's not a disrespect. That's just like kind of the reality of the business, right?
Yeah.
Especially like if Juice Scruggs can do his job, if they're going to go a different direction in center, right? Mm-hmm. Those three positions from guard to guard, right, have been a bit of musical chairs and something that they absolutely have to figure out.
Yes.
Right? Like that. We've been talking about coaching, but from a personnel standpoint, they absolutely got to figure that part out. But between what they've got and what they're bringing in, Popovich is, to me, again, like the connective tissue, and speaks again to the important part that you're talking about that relationship building and really that trust factor of, hey, can I trust what you're doing, what we're doing? And can I believe in what you're telling us to do, right? Can we actually produce in this way? Can we win this way?
Yep, exactly. No, I agree. I 100% with you, B. And you have to get it together because, I feel like, there's this question that's been going around for a very long time now, especially heading into the draft. Do you draft a wide receiver? Do you draft a wide receiver, not knowing what Stephon Diggs is going to do outside of, I'm not gonna say that.
No, I was going to ask you anyway. Would you keep Stephon Diggs? And I'm talking about the real Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, me too. Because I was gonna say we don't know what he's doing outside of Cardi B, but I didn't, I had to, make sure that I'm respectful on other people's platforms.
I understand. Look, as long as, and I don't think Offset listens. And so as long as Offset don't listen, I think we good. You're not gonna bother nobody else. I didn't know that was the direction that you was gonna go with that. That is hilarious. I do feel like my man can he's a veteran, right?
Yeah.
That wouldn't be the first bad one that he got. And he been doing the football thing a while. So I figure he can multitask, he can rehab, he can handle business with Cardi B, be her rebound or whatever you need to do.
I think that they need I think they need Stephon Diggs back. One, because of the relationship that he has inside of that locker room. He's still serviceable. He may not be, the Minnesota Vikings Stephon Diggs. He may not even be, earlier, Buffalo Bills Stephon Diggs, but he's still Stephon Diggs, and he still requires some type of attention that on the opposite side of a Nico Collins. Because if you don't have anyone on the opposite side of Nico Collins, they're going to do exactly what they've been doing when those players go down and just roll the coverage over to Nico. And I think that the Texans also need him because of the salary cap situation. They need to re-sign him to be able to move some of that money around, I think, and be able to free up some of the cap space. So I would, only because I think that he's going to be serviceable, but I think that it will get into, and this may sound crazy to you, because I hate doing the thing B that everybody else do, is like, hey man, you need to sign a guy because he's been in that system. He's been in that Ram system. You need to sign this guy, this, that, and other. I hate to be that guy, B. But what I want to say is the comparison. And, maybe just for 1 year, just for Nick Caley's, first year, you bring in Stephon Diggs and you let them be Puka Nacua, who's the number 1 receiver, and Cooper Kupp, who's the number 2. So you got Nico as Puka, and you got Cooper, Stephon Diggs as Cooper Kupp, which, by the way, isn't a bad, I don't feel like that's a bad comp to be Cooper Kupp, because Cooper Kupp is good. And, in their prime, I'm still taking Stephon Diggs, but I don't know what Stephon Diggs you're getting coming off that injury as well. And I don't know how many, the part that we don't know, B, is how many other teams are looking at a Stephon Diggs? How many other teams are looking to throw money at him? And so if he's off the board, B, now you go back to who do you bring in as far as free agency is concerned? Do you have the money? Do you have the ability to go out and get somebody and trade your future picks away and bring them in right now? Or do you go to do you try to look for an interior offensive lineman, or do you draft the interior offensive lineman? So what is the prime need for you if you were the Texans GM right now, and in this draft, are you drafting a wide receiver first, or are you drafting an interior offensive lineman?
Yeah, I need an listen. So the draft is going to be after a free agency, right? So you will have kind of started to make up your team. You will have been able to have that opportunity to make trades, and so the answer to your question is going to depend in part on how that part of the season starts out, free agency and the trade market. But my priority, if I were to answer it this way, my priority is that interior offensive line. Like, if you've figured out a way to address it already, then let's go get that weapon. So like my priority is 1A offensive line, interior offensive line, 1B weapon. So whichever one you don't address in the best way already, by the time you get to the draft, I need you to get there, right? So like, if you've done the offensive line thing, go ahead and get the weapon. If you've done the weapon thing, I need the offensive lineman. So there's a yin and yang there to me in terms of personnel, or what the priority is for this team. I think it's interesting what you said about Stephon Diggs, though, because like, I look at it a little bit differently. The reason why I find it interesting is because you got a lot of Texans fans, and we know some of them, who feel like the Stephon Diggs move was just a mistake from the beginning. Like, it was just a bad move, that they shouldn't have done it. The opportunity cost in it, what they could have gotten in the draft at that same position, younger players. And then, of course, the money that you spend by, guaranteeing them the contract, trading for them, guaranteeing the contract, and you only get the, whatever it was, 8 games or whatever it was that he played, like, just feeling like that was just a bad move. And there's that feeling of not wanting to double down on it and bring him back and not acknowledge that it probably wasn't the best move. But for me, I look at it a little bit differently, and this is where I would kind of agree with you, is that like whether it was a bad move or not originally, you do kind of need him more now. Like you need Stephon Diggs or somebody like that. Okay, pick whoever it is that you want to be that guy. But you need somebody like that now, more so than it felt like you did even last year when you went and got Stephon Diggs. Right? Because you were adding him to an arsenal that included Tank Dell. Yes, and so it was going to be that three-headed monster, at least at the receiver position, of Nico Collins, Tank Dell, and Stephon Diggs, to the point where we were having to, some people were discussing, like, who's going to be the number one wide receiver? You got three guys that could take that mantle, that have that type of talent. And we saw what kind of season that Nico ended up having. But now, man, both of those dudes went down. Both of them went down. And Tank, man, I'm really praying for the best for him and his career and his future, man. Because what a good kid and what a bright future that he had that was ahead of him, at least at that time. So I'm hoping that that's still there for him. But now you got to plan, if you're the Texans, you got to plan for a season that doesn't really include him. Yeah. You know, that doesn't really, especially doesn't really include him being, you know, a major factor in what you're doing. And now you need, it just increases the urgency to have a guy like Stephon Diggs if he's going to be available to you. And if not him, then who is the question? You know, because you got to address that position one way or another.
And it's crazy because when I be listening and seeing those Texans fans say those type of things, some of them say them in the spaces, some of them say them on social media. I had a friend who had who bought a Benz that was, I can't remember the year, but whatever year it was, the Benz that he bought was like maybe 3 years older. But the Benz had miles, but it had low miles on it for the 3 years, right? It had low miles on it. It had a good clean bill of health as far as maintenance and everything else that was required on it. Like he did the person who had the Benz, like, kept it up. Like, it was really good, had the upkeep, had all of the papers to show, hey, you know, this is time. It had never been in a wreck. It has never, you know, been in the shop no more than just for routine maintenance. But B, he had that Benz, right? B had that Benz, I want to say about maybe 8 months. And the transmission not transmission, because I don't know if Benz got transmission or not. Let me not say transmission. I ain't never owned a Benz, but whatever, the engine went out, B. So I don't know if there's a transmission in the Benz or not, but I know that the engine went out, B. And it cost him so much money. That's why them high dollar cars, I'm like, no, look, I got a Ram truck. Look, I know I can get that thing fixed. My wife got a Ford Bronco. We know we know we can get that thing fixed. Benz, BMW, Porsche, Lamborghinis, all that. I can't afford the maintenance on that. He was able to afford the maintenance on that. B got that thing fixed. He kept that car for, I want to say, another 8 years before he got rid of it. And he only got rid of it because he could not stop having kids. But that's another story for another time. But
a self-inflicted wound.
Exactly. But B, you understand why I'm using this analogy, right?
Yeah. Because you want, look, if you take care of the Benz, a Benz is still a Benz.
Exactly. And so we look at Stephon Diggs and him coming from, you know, Minnesota and Buffalo, and he didn't have a history of injuries or things like that. And so when the Texans made the deal, they looked at it, it's like, yo, we're getting Stephon Diggs, a guy who's had multiple years of 1,000 yards receiving, someone who's really good, who could, you know, be on the opposite side of a Nico Collins and also with a Tank Dell, and we could just insert him here. And then next thing you know, bam, he gets hurt. Nobody could have foreseen Stephon Diggs getting injured like that. Nobody could have seen that. And when you make those type of deals, you don't make those deals with, oh, I'm only gonna have him for 7 games. I'm only gonna have him for 9 weeks, and then I'm not gonna have him anymore. No, you make that deal knowing, hey, look, I expect on having him all the way through the playoffs. I'm expecting him to perform. So my boy thought with the Benz, and then the Benz went down. But then once he got the Benz back up and running again, he didn't have no more issues with it. So I'm saying that to say this. There could be a situation, B, where Stephon Diggs comes back from this injury and you could get another 3-4 years out. Now, where it comes into play, and I ain't gonna want to pay him big money in those 3 or 4 years. So if he can work with me on a hometown discount, I know he like being in Houston. Ain't no state income tax in Texas. Your money go a little bit further here, and I'm pretty sure that Cardi B would love to come out to the training camps because I would love to see her.
Yeah. Let's get down to the real motivations here, man. Stephon Diggs leave and the possibility of Cardi B showing up to training camp or any of the other Texans events that we are fortunate enough to be invited to from time to time.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying, man? Could you imagine, bro? Like, one of the red carpet events or one of them, what is that? The season premiere thing that they do.
Oh yes.
You look up at the table, a couple tables down. It's like, wait, is that really happening? Yeah. No, that's that would be a pipe dream. But nah, man, look, I think that the Stephon Diggs thing comes down to what the cost is and what the options are. And to me, he is not a bad option, especially considering the state of affairs with that position group, man. It is Nico Collins, and then I think you got some good supporting cast guys, some good options in. Like, I like John Mechie and Xavier Hutchinson as young players, and I know, look, they're not gonna be that young no more, man. They right. Going into their third and fourth seasons, but man, in Mechie's case, obviously actually only playing the third season, but fourth professional season, third and fourth professional seasons, man. But you still need that guy, that other guy, like you mentioned, that's going to be a threat. And it is unclear exactly where that's going to come from, And again, my point earlier was like, it almost doesn't really, like, I would want the Texans fans to not necessarily look at the Stephon Diggs thing. Like, if you didn't like that deal to begin with, or you feel like that was a bad deal, don't look at bringing him back as the doubling down of that deal as much as it is addressing a new need, because that was my point. Like, it is a new and different kind of need that I feel like exists there, man. So yeah, man.
I'm gonna tell you this. So for me, right, the most important need for me for the Houston Texans, whether they get it in free agency or whether they get it in the draft, like, and my first draft pick would be a wide receiver. I'm going to be honest with you. I gotta have that, because if Nick Caley is who we think he is, we've seen Sean McVay do more with less. We've seen Sean McVay patchwork an offensive line together and say, well, don't worry about it, because as long as we got Matt Stafford back there, he going to get the ball to where it needs to be and get the ball out quickly. So, like, I would try to address a wide receiver 2 first, and then go and see if I can get some more linemen or whatever the case may be. But that's just me, though. That's the way I look at it. I feel like this should be an offense where CJ doesn't have to sit in the pocket and wait for these long developing routes to occur.
I will say this, Sarge, to your point, like I'm just looking at the offensive line and the issues that they had. But I will say this. I think that the offensive line's issues could be more quickly corrected with coaching than, say, the wide receiver issue. Right? Exactly. The wide receiver issue is more, and this is no disrespect to the talent that's there, but the wide receiver issue is much more of an issue of talent and bodies and needing more people. They need the Texans wide receiving group needs more people, as they say. Whereas the Texans offensive line has people, and it is an open question right now as to whether all of those guys are the right people or not. But they do have people, and it is as much of a matter of assembling them correctly and having them do the right things that make the most of who they are and what they are, and having somebody that they can believe in, having a system that they can believe in, and it be coached properly.
Yes.
Right. It ain't even just enough to believe in it, but it's got to be like coached, and it's got to be executed on top of that. Right.
Yeah.
So, but I think those things could more quickly happen for the offensive line than it could just simply say, "Hey, coach up the wide receivers." I don't think that that's as much of the issue as it is. Hey, they need more people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah. So let's rapid fire these other sports, man, so I can get you out of here, man.
Gotcha.
The Rockets. Let me ask it to you like this. What do you like most? And we are recording this right now as the All-Star game is happening. But and the Rockets, by the way, as the 4th seed, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. They are the 4th seed, and I think they went into the All-Star break as the 4th seed. I'm doing that off memory, but I feel pretty confident about it. They had been as high as the 2 seed, I know for a fact. We know that for a fact.
Yes.
Let me ask you this.
They are, in fact, the 4th seed.
What do you like most about the 4th seed, Western Conference 4th seed Houston Rockets? And so it's a 2-part question. What do you like most about this team? And what would you say it needs most to get to where it needs to go and wants to go?
So I look at this 4th seed Houston Rockets team, and I still see them as a 2nd seed. I still see them as better than the Denver Nuggets, who are currently in the 3rd seed, and the Memphis Grizzlies, who are the 2nd seed. Now, when we talk about who's up top in the Oklahoma City Thunder, no possible way. They're not there yet. But the one thing that I do like about this team is they don't give up. What I mean by they don't give up, I mean, we watched them go down by how many points against the Golden State Warriors. And, the one thing about head coach Ime Udoka is, like, he don't care whose name on the back of the jersey. He just cares about who's out there in that jersey that's going to hoop, who gonna play. And he took out the starters and he brought the backup unit. And I think at one point the backup unit had got them to the game was tied or something like that. And they ended up losing by 5 or 7 points. But the one thing that I like about that Houston Rockets team, that, like you said, 4th seed, but I still see them as 2nd seed, because if they don't sustain injuries at the point guard position with Fred VanVleet, and even with Jabari Smith Jr. going down, with the hand injury, the freakish hand injury that happened during a morning shoot around before a game, their rotation is still set in a way to whereas the bench unit is just as good or just as effective as the starters. And so I cannot look at them right now as the 4th seed and just say, oh man, this team is bad, when I know what they are, who they are, and what they can be when they're fully healthy. I've seen them beat the top 2 teams in the Eastern Conference, in the Cleveland Cavaliers. I've seen them beat the Boston Celtics, the reigning NBA champs. I've seen them beat the Oklahoma City Thunder. So I like the fact that this is a team that will be, because you've been around, you've been around covering that team for a long time.
Yep.
There's a time where this team in games would have just given up, and they get down by double digits, and now they're ready to give up. This team does not give up. And seeing with the play of Amen Thompson in his 2nd year, seeing that he's just insert player here, and he can play pretty much any position on the floor. When you look at a Cam Whitmore coming off the bench, I say he's a gremlin. Just add minutes. Just add minutes to him, and he's an instant scorer. Fred VanVleet, when he's healthy, when he's out there on the floor, is able to give him that veteran presence. But the emergence of Jalen Green and Alperen Sengun, the way that they have been able to play with that 1-2 combination, and the one thing that I like is they're getting more comfortable, because at one point it was just all Alpy, and then it became all Jalen. And then when they both got on the same page, then it became, okay, so who are you going to defend?
Yep.
Are you going to defend Alperen, and if you're going to defend Sengun in the post, then you're going to have to send multiple players. But when you send multiple players, he's one of the best big man passers in the game. He's going to kick it out to Jalen, who's I don't know if people have taken notice of this or not, but Jalen Green has become a very effective 3-point shooter. Now, the numbers may not say it all the time, because especially with Fred getting hurt and him having to play more of the point guard duties, having the ball in his hands more compared to someone else having the ball in their hands, and him moving off and being able to, to score. He he's become an effective shooter from the mid-range as well. And so that's the thing that I like about this Houston Rockets team is now they come into the games expecting to win, not hoping to win. They come in knowing that, and on the defense side of the ball, they're one of the most physical teams in the league. Every time we talk to other players about the Houston Rockets, the one thing that they always mention is the physicality. It's like, they're gonna play defense, or they're gonna be physical with you. So that's what I like. And B, I'm gonna be honest with you, is because I'm old, and once I get to talking, sometimes I forgot your second question. So I'll wait till you finish and then
but look, no, I was gonna ask you what you feel like they need, but let me respond to real quick on this point that you made about Jalen and Alperen Sengun, because this is something I was talking about with Adam Spillane, our guy Adam Spillane on H-Town, who's podcast. What up, Spo? I mentioned to him, man, this is on our last episode. I'm done nitpicking Jalen Green. I'm done doing that. I've done that for a time, like, and it was more so like not even to be like nitpicking, or me, so I'm not no hater, man. I'm more of just like, when I see greatness, I'm a hold it to a standard. I'm gonna expect something of it. I'm not gonna nitpick you if I don't think you worth a damn. If I'm fixated on it, it's because I think it's a lot there, and I want to see it. But man, I told him, I was like, man, I think I'm done nitpicking, and I think I'm just accepting the dude for what he is. Like, even if the numbers at times scream inefficient, if you watch the game, man, he's an issue.
Yes.
And way more so now than he ever was. And in a way that him and Alpy both, in a way that you see where and how defenses are and teams are game planning against these guys. Right? Like the doubles that they send to Alpy. When Alpy's not out there, and it's hell on Jalen out there. When you don't have Alpy, and that little stretch where they didn't have Alperen Sengun or Fred VanVleet, like you mentioned, without VanVleet, Jalen's got a lot more ball handling duties, and if Alpy's not there, he's got a lot more scoring duties, and it's hell on him in those situations, man. No wonder he's so inefficient in games like that, right?
Yeah,
because they're asking or requiring him to do way too much. But my point is, efficient or not, high percentage or low percentage, the aggressiveness, and I think the stretches that he has had when he's been on fire, like the end of last year, and for a stretch there, I think it was maybe January or December, whatever it was, earlier this year, where he was on fire, right? To start the season, he's had enough, he's shown enough to where, like, you've got to account for him.
Yes.
He's undeniable. Like, you've got to account for him. You've got a game plan for him. And if he's just simply aggressive, it's going to work in the Rockets' favor, whether the shots are falling or not. And I found myself now, like, on the nights when his shot isn't falling, it's like, it's okay. You can live with that, because this is clearly one of your better players. Your first or second best player on a given night. And on a given night can be the best player on the floor, no matter who's on the other side. Yeah. Right? Because we've seen him outperform the likes of Ja Morant, right? We've seen him, hell, even as a rookie, do up the Lakers and games against the Celtics. Like, we've seen him go off against the league's best, and measure up to that. So I just said all to say, man, I'm done nitpicking Jalen Green. I ain't quitting Jalen Green. We understand that it's a business. Like if they got aspirations for a particular player, that, Jalen Green could be somebody that could be involved, right? We understand that they've got draft picks, the Suns' future that they can dangle in front of any team, including the Suns.
Yeah,
if they wish to do so. But, like, aside from just acknowledging those facts, I'm not like somebody that wants to entertain all the different ways you can get rid of Jalen Green. Because like dude has, and this is just, me really just trying to give him credit for the way that things have developed this year. I feel like dude has just shown enough to have proven himself as like a staple or a building block for your organization. Like, could have easily, if he had been a little bit more consistent this year, could have easily been playing in that All-Star game tonight.
Easily. For sure. Yeah, for sure. The way I look at the way that I've looked and seen what they've done also is you're starting to see the Houston Rockets coaching staff, starting with Ime Udoka. You're starting to see them say, he's kind of like the guy, right? It's kind of like the guy. What I mean by he's kind of like the guy, he's kind of like, yo, man, get a ball to Jalen. Let's just
Yeah.
see. Let's just see what he's gonna do. Right? Hey, run these sets for Jalen. Run these sets for Jalen. Okay. Now run these sets for Jalen and make Alpy the second option. Or even run these sets for Alpy and make Jalen the second option. But you're starting to see it's almost like when he gets the ball, you're almost expecting him to score on the offensive end every time. Every time you're expecting him to do something because he's developed his jump shot is getting better, way better than it was 2 years ago. And he has one of the quickest first steps in the league. So he is explosive. So when he's also in games when you playing with like a Steven Adams, you use if he can get a good screen set and he comes around that screen, it's almost hard to stop him coming downhill. And so that's what I excuse me, that's what I like about watching him. And I also like watching what like in Alperen Şengün, because Alpy's becoming a bully. And I like that he's becoming a bully, especially on that offensive side of the ball. Now, he's gonna have to get better, a little bit better on the defensive side because I've seen Alpy get bullied, but I've also seen them like double team Alpy too. I'm talking about on the defense side of the ball because B, I know we're not talking about this team right now, but I'm gonna put them. I just want to throw this in there because I watched them against the Rockets, and I feel like they're one of the teams that if the Rockets have to meet them in the playoffs, if they make it to the playoffs and they have to meet them, it's going to be a tall, hard task going against the Dallas Mavericks because they have so much height, so much length on that team. And so that's when I've seen Alpy get double teamed on the offensive side of the ball, and they double team him on the defensive side of the ball. But I like that he's a bully. Now, real quickly, you asked me what they need. They're going to need to find someone who's going to be able to help them in their half court sets when Fred VanVleet is not in there. Because one of the reasons why they've lost the games that they lost, I mean, you lose 2 to Brooklyn. Brooklyn, the team who's trying to tank. The team who wants to lose. And I'm sitting in Barclays Center and with them up, and then all of a sudden I see them give up 6 points like that. I was like, no, Fred VanVleet would have never, ever allowed that. Even in the game against Memphis when they lost by, I think they lost by one point, but they didn't have Alpy in the game either. So if they'd have had Alpy, but they had Fred, and he was almost hit the game winning shot.
That was the game where they drew up the last play for Thompson, and Thompson ended up passing it up, and Fred had to shoot it at the last second there. But
yeah.
But the men probably should have been maybe a little bit more aggressive and forced that issue. But
he's a second-year player, and even in the Madison Square Garden when they had them up, they should have won that game. So I'm just saying that to say that, I'm looking forward to the second half of the season where they can get back fully healthy. It's been reported, but I have it confirmed that Jabari Smith Jr. will be back after the All-Star break. He is fully healthy and ready to go against the Minnesota Timberwolves on the 21st. So now you get him back. Fred is looks like he's on that same trajectory to play. And now we get a chance to see that team that we've watched throughout this season and say, yo, these guys are starting to put some other teams on notice. But they have to get it by the time the playoffs come, you're going to have to make a decision. Hey, who's going to be your backup point guard? Are you going to put Aaron Holiday out there? Hey, B, side note. Hey, bro, Aaron Holiday can shoot. That's all I'm saying.
Hey, Aaron Holiday is underrated. He can shoot. Underrated. Aaron Holiday is like I walk in the locker room.
Yeah.
Walk by Aaron Holiday, and we eye to eye. He one of the few players, him and Fred, basically. Yeah. And Reed is just a little bit taller than them. But those are the ones I feel like I can look at. I'm like, man, Aaron Holiday is out there like balling in the NBA, man, my size, man, it's wild. But he can shoot, and like I've seen him punch it a couple of times, man. Yeah, a good athlete, man. Underrated probably in that regard, I would say.
They're gonna have a problem. One of the biggest issues that the Texans, one of the biggest issues that the Rockets are gonna have once they're fully healthy is now how do you do these rotations again? Yeah, because okay, you can get away with playing Tari, a game, resting them a game, playing them a game, resting them a game, calling it leg management. But you got to get Cam on the floor. Yeah. You got to get Cam on the floor. You got to get Reed more minutes so he can get comfortable just shooting. And Reed's scrappy on the defensive end. I like that, but he just has to get more comfortable shooting. So they're about to have this problem of, hey man, how can we get everybody into the rotation heading into the playoffs?
Yeah, but I will say I think it's a good problem in the sense that Jabari being back helps their rotations and helps their lineups in general. Like no matter how critical you might want to be a Jabari, like his absence got to make the heart grow fonder of what he brings to the table, right? Because you're like, damn, this what it look like when you don't have somebody that's tall and can shoot and plays defense and can help you rebound.
Yep.
You know, the point you were making about them trying to bully Alpi, it's harder to do that if you have multiple bigs out there who can offer what Jabari offers on both ends of the floor. So I think he's gonna both help their rotation, but also present the issue that you bring up in terms of how do they get everybody on the floor. But let me tell you this, Sarge, I am excited about like I'm picturing a 5-man lineup of like, you know, Alpi at the elbow, high post type of action, and Jalen Green and Amen Thompson, both more athletic than anybody that's going to be on the other side of them, cutting or some kind of 2-man action with Alpi. And then who are your shooters out there? You have Fred VanVleet and hopefully Jabari Smith. Or if it's Dylan Brooks, who's been shooting the ball better than he has in his career. You know, like to me, those are all good options. No matter who's starting or coming off the bench, those are what the rotations. Whoever's not starting is going to soon thereafter be coming off the bench, right?
Yeah.
So those are all going to be good perimeter options, more and better perimeter options for Alpi to work with and for them to work with outside of the framework of whatever Şengün is doing, Jalen is doing, and what Amen Thompson is doing off of those. Right, like you'll still have the shooting of Jabari Smith, Dylan Brooks, and hopefully Fred VanVleet as well. So,
but B, who goes to the bench though? B, that's the question that I want to ask you before you leave up out of here.
Yeah.
When Jabari comes back healthy, who goes to the bench, or do you bring Jabari off the bench?
I think so. I think Jabari is the most is the player that can play with any lineup. Like, there's no bad lineup for Jabari. So I think that's an easy one to bring him off the bench. But what I would actually do is I would bring Dylan off the bench because I like having the size with Jabari. And like, to me, having Jabari in there takes some pressure off Şengün. It gives you a better version of Şengün, which to me is more important than the Jabari versus Dylan question. It's getting the most out of your best player or your second best player, however you want to look at it. One of your top 2 players, getting the most out of him. And I think Jabari helps you do that. And Dylan, to his credit, man, I think he's just veteran enough and professional enough to just do whatever needs doing. And I think he would strengthen that bench lineup. You know, like ask some, you know, and the bench is already really good, right? Not that it needs strengthening, but I think it adds what it adds is a little bit of leadership to because most of the bench guys are young guys.
Do you think Dylan got some Draymond Green in him? Draymond Green's like, I'll come off the bench. I don't care. I don't think Dylan coming off the bench, bro.
You don't think so?
I don't think I don't. I don't think I know that.
So, I do think if that is an issue, to me, if that is an issue, then you do just bring Jabari off the bench. Like I wouldn't want to make it an issue if you think that it would be.
And I think that because you're not supposed to lose your position to injury. Like, you're not supposed to lose and we talked about Kenyon Green earlier, right? Well, with the Texans, and that's one of the reasons why he didn't lose his position, because you're not supposed to lose your position to injury. You're supposed to lose your position to performance. And remember, he was poor, because of performance. So when you look at I don't see Dylan Brooks as who will accept a bench role. Like, you'd have to sell that thing to him so good, like to the point where you're like, we're gonna let Jabari start, but we're gonna bring you in after the first 3 minutes, or we're gonna bring you in and pull our men after the first 3 minutes. Like, you got to still make him feel like he is a starter, because he's worked so hard in his career to get to the point to where he is. And Dylan is having a good season. Like, Dylan is like, I don't know how you sell him on, I got to bring you off the bench. But that's another thing. How you gonna sell
size and rebounding? Size and rebounding. Look, a man is the one who. Here's the issue: a man is the one who can't come out the lineup. You start with the conversation with that,
right?
And say, look, a man is in the lineup, man. So this gonna come down to, and we understand the position that everybody else play. Shingun is in the lineup. Jalen Green is in the lineup. Fred VanVleet is in the lineup. So this come down to really you and Jabari, right? And the selling point is, y'all can do basically the same things, but Jabari is taller, is bigger. So I'm going with size, and I'm bringing you in as the veteran who is having a good season. Like he would be the star of the bench. He would be the first guy off the bench. You know, I mean that's how I would try to. Now if it's gonna make Dylan go sideways, I feel like Jabari, the kid, is the one that's the least likely to go sideways.
I think you can sell Jabari more on coming off the bench than you can Dylan, unless it's only one way I feel like you could sell it to Dylan. I just thought about this. You can sell it to Dylan if you tell him he's going to get more touches on the offensive end.
Yeah.
If you tell him, hey man, you come in, bro. I mean, it's you now. Now it's you. Well, now you don't have to share the ball with Alpi.
Hold on, wait a minute. See, now let me ask you this then, because I don't like that. Like, why it can't be this, man? Why you can't sell it on? Why you can't sell it with? It's better for the team, and he gonna say, hell no, it ain't. I'm better for the team, right? Like that, because that would be the selling point. It's like, man, look, we appreciate everything that you're doing for us right now. We acknowledge you having a hell of a season. But Amin, there is some crossover between what you, Jabari, and Amin do. Amin got to be in the lineup. Jabari offers us a certain level of size and the crossover shooting that you already offer us, right? So like he can knock down the three, but he also can rebound. Like your rebounding improves and your presence on the defensive end, I think, improves because you have a more versatile defender. You know, so, and I get Dylan Brooks is known as a great defender, but I think that it's better for the team if you have the size and versatility of a Jabari as opposed to 6'6" Dylan Brooks out there.
I honestly, the only way I could see you selling this to Dylan Brooks is you guarantee him more touches to shoot the ball, because I mean, listen, Ime has said it on numerous occasions to myself in press conferences and to others. We don't run plays for Jabari and Dylan. They got to get what they get.
Yeah,
they got to get what they get. So, like when you see Dylan shooting, like Dylan got to prove to him that he's hot, so they can then they'll start going to him. Yeah, but he gets a lot of his shots off of just broken plays or just being the open guy. But if you can guarantee him that we're going to run sets for you on the second unit, so we can make sure you get the same amount of touches or more, then you may be able to sell him on that. But other than that, when you go to him to try to tell him, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, he's going to be like, well, I have produced this year, right? I produced, I've been in the game, I've been healthy enough to play every game. So why are you taking me out again? Why am I coming out of the start lineup?
Yeah, now to be clear, I will go with Jabari, but I do want to, at the end of this discussion, go ahead and acknowledge that Dylan Brooks is having a hell of a season. Yeah. Like I don't want that to get lost here in the sort of points that have been made here that I've made. Shout out to Dylan Brooks this year, man, because he has been. They are not this far without him. No chance.
And I think that you could line up a second unit lineup with Amin at the 1. You could put Amin at the 1. Put Cam at the 2, have Tari at the 3, Jabari at the 4. Sheesh. Or put Jabari at the 5 and put Jabari at the 5, put Tari at the 4, and let Reed Shepard play the 2.
I see, man, I got issues with all of those lineups though, man, because as intriguing as they are from an athletic standpoint, and just like a potential like pace and what they could do defensively, man, they still go back to the point that you made earlier, man. What they gonna do when Fred VanVleet not in the game? Because them ain't enough ball handlers out there that you named for me. I love every player that you mentioned, but like, how am I like Amin as good as he is, and I think he can help you get into your sets, but I'd rather have him. I'd rather him doing some of the things that he's been doing, since he's been out there with Fred VanVleet. I feel like that's been a better version of him. So I got issues with how I'm getting into my offense and where it's coming from. If it's a Min Whitmore, Tari Eason wing situation, guard wing situation, as crazy as it would be athletically, So I say that just to say they still got to answer that problem. They still got to figure out that issue. And Reed Shepard's supposed to be the answer. To be clear about that, he's supposed to be. He ain't been, but he's supposed to be.
He a rookie though, B.
I know.
You know what? That's the one thing I've hated about social media. Social media has taken away the ability in sports for players to develop. They want instant gratification right here, right. And I'm talking about you. I'm just saying in general, it's like, oh, they said that they call him Cocaine Curry. Yeah, I mean, come on, bro. Everybody just laughing, hyping it up, but he's still a rookie. Yeah. There's a lot he has to learn. He ain't LeBron James type rookie coming into the league like that. He not, Wemby or nothing like that, but I mean, he has to learn.
Yeah, no, he definitely has to learn, and I'll be patient with him. I don't have no reason to rush, especially you think about where the Rockets are. In some ways, you could say ahead of schedule. Obviously, a good team, one of the better teams in the NBA right now. Yep. So it's not like it's like, man, Reed Shepard, we need you to come save us, dog. It ain't like it's like that. So yeah, I think we should be patient with him, but I think there is also a reasonable expectation of identifying a team need and then identifying what a specific player is supposed to be and supposed to do, and saying, hey, man, you know what? We could really use you to go do that right there, man. And
where you going to play him, B? In what rotation?
No, I'm saying he's not playing well enough to warrant this. I'm saying the frustration is you would like for him to be, not, hey, all-star, all-NBA level number 3 overall pick, but hey, can you back up? Can you give Fred VanVleet some rest? Or can you be our refuge when Fred VanVleet is either resting or injured? Can we not have that same
G League Reed?
Yeah. Can you be some bridge in between G League Reed and NBA Reed? Like we'll take whatever the middle is. Sure. That's what I'm saying. All right, let me get you out of here on this, man. All right. Would you have paid Alex Bregman $40 million a year? Like, is that something that you would have been interested in? I'm trying to gauge the responses of folks who watched Alex Bregman go off to the Boston Red Sox for 3 years, $120 million. The Astros are going to look very different this year, sure. And we acknowledge this because there's no Alex Bregman. They traded away Kyle Tucker. Of course, Justin Verlander is gone. Like, a lot of the mainstays are gone. Okay, and you're going to be asking a lot of players that you have not watched play in Astros uniform before to step up, or who you've seen play sparingly to have more increased roles. But I wanted to get your reaction to Alex Bregman going to the Boston Red Sox and what the implication is, you think, for this Astros team going into this 2025 season as they try to keep the dynasty alive, man. A lot of people questioning, is it over with? Is the window closed? What say you?
You asking me, do I think the window's closed?
Yeah, man. How you feeling? Okay. Man?
I'm going to answer both of these questions.
It's different energy around here, man.
I'm going to answer both of these questions. One, yeah, the dynasty's over. I don't think that the Houston Astros has enough to compete on a level to whereas they can go up against if that would have been the Houston Astros against the Dodgers in the World Series last year, the results would have been the same. They would have lost. So because you can start to see the downward spiral. And don't get me wrong, I don't understand why people get so mad when people say things like that, because think about it. The New England Patriots dynasty had to end. The Cowboys dynasty had to end. Pretty soon here the Chiefs had to end. Then you look at it and I use football for example, because those are the teams that people can easily recognizable franchises as far as dynasties are concerned. Yeah, but I mean,
the Lakers had to keep recreating it. The Celtics had to keep recreating it. Yeah,
the Yankees, the Red Sox, at some point the Dodgers. At some point, man, those dynasties have to end, and you just have to enjoy it for what it was. And I don't think that the Astros have enough. So in the past, B, we would be able to look at those Astros teams and they could start off slow, but it wouldn't bother you, it wouldn't worry you because you knew that they had the talent to be able to make up whatever deficit it was in the standings because that's just who they were, right? When I look at this team now, and I'm looking and I'm saying, I don't know that if they get in a deficit as far as the standings are concerned, if they can make it up. Now, I'm not saying that they can't make it to a wild card spot. I'm not saying that, but I don't know if they could get themselves back into a position to where as you can say, oh yeah, the Astros could win the World Series this year. I just don't see that. And the reason why I don't see that is because of the outfield situation. I don't understand what's going on with that, and I don't think that they have. I don't think they have a strong enough lineup right now to compete. And you look at it, you didn't just lose, Bregman, you lost Tucker as well. And so, contrary to belief, those are still two good bats in your lineup, no matter when they're hot and when they're not. There's still two people that when they come to the plate, you already know what they're going to give you. And I'm going to tell you what baffled me and confused me the most about them not giving Bregman the money. Because let me say this: if I would have gave Bregman the money, I feel like Bregman earned it and deserved it for what he did for the Houston Astros franchise. And at some point, you reward that. And I know he's still serviceable enough at the plate, and he's still very good at the third base position. I think that he won awards last season playing at the third base position. And so, you don't want to give him the money. You think that it's too much, but you gave Abreu how much?
Yeah.
You gave Presley how much? You gave Hader how much? You gave Montero how much? Like, and don't get me wrong. Hey, look, all those guys are amazing. None of those guys are Alex and Bregman. Not only do you get a third baseman who's still good, someone who's still good at the plate, but you also still have a face of your franchise. You still have somebody that you can send into the community to do community work, and you can still get, because I'm gonna tell you right now, B. I'm gonna tell you right now, if the Astros start slumping, right? You think Altuve is not gonna come to the press conference and say what you want to hear? He's not gonna do that. Jordan is not gonna come and say what you want to hear. Jeremy Pena is not gonna come and say what you want to hear. No, nobody wants to hear from Chas McCormick. Nobody wants to hear from Jake Myers. Like, you need Bregman to be able to come through those hard times where your franchise is suffering. And he'll come there and he knows how to say the right things. But you don't have that anymore. And I just don't think that I don't think that the ownership looked at the bigger picture. I mean, because if you feel like we don't do those type of contracts, we're not going to give that type of money. Hey man, you wasted money on worse. Like, how much money did they waste on Abreu? Then they cut him in the middle of the season.
Yeah, $50-something million, basically.
See what I'm saying? But you don't want to give it to
somebody that was never good for him.
Yeah. You don't want to give it to Bregman, who was part of the run, part of your dynasty. No, I didn't like it at all, B.
Yeah, so this is tough, man, because I can't help but look at it within the lens of all of the rest of the moves that they didn't make. Like you mentioned the ones that they made that were bad, but I think about all of the players that they decided not to pay. That they let Carlos Correa go for what essentially was going to be, $35-40 million a year or whatever it was. George Springer before that. All of the guys that we've watched walk. And I was, listen, ahead of time, I was like, bring Alex Bregman back. Like 100%, I'm an Alex Bregman guy, a Houston guy. Alex Bregman is a legend here. Like, I don't care what anybody says, Alex Bregman is a legend. And honestly, man, it's a tremendous leadership void. Like, it's a tremendous leadership void on top of what he offers you as a player. So I thought it was important to bring him back. And if I had known that you could get him back on a 3-year deal like this, and you just had to give him a little bit extra, make it $40 million a year, I probably would have done it. I also understand how you could get to, hey, I'm not going to pay Alex Bregman $40 million a year if I wasn't going to give it to Carlos Correa, if I wasn't going to give it to all of these other guys. So I guess maybe I've just gotten, and maybe this isn't a good thing, how I've gotten resigned to the fact that they don't pay sticker price. They just don't believe it. But they don't pay sticker price for the right players, but they'll pay it for the wrong player, and it's just kind of a jacked up way to feel about a team that you're real passionate about, man. Honestly, like, and this is the kind of the fan of me coming out a little bit here, but it's like, man, I wish that y'all would keep the same energy, like to the point, like you gave Montero $11+ million a year, bidding against who, and for what reason exactly? And if that tell you that, if something tell you that Montero is worth $11 million a year, how didn't it not tell you that Correa was worth 35 or whatever it is, or whatever he ended up getting a year, and that Bregman wouldn't be worth close to 40, and that Springer wasn't worth, and I know Springer's been hurt since he's been in Toronto and all of that, but like Kyle Tucker, for example, you made the preemptive decision. You ain't even get this far. You said, we're gonna trade him ahead of time. We got a whole nother year of him, but we know we saw what Juan Soto got. We saw what the Mets gave Juan Soto. Yep. We know Kyle Tucker not getting Juan Soto money, but he ain't gonna try to be too far behind it, right? Like he gonna try to get $500 million at least, right? So like we know we're not doing that, but man, this is what these players cost, man. This is what it costs to field a baseball team, a competitive baseball team, to keep a dynasty running, to keep the staples of the franchise together. So I did not. I guess what I'm saying is, man, I do not like how I've come to accept that they'll underpay for the great players and overpay for the marginal ones. Exactly. Like that feel like that's the space that the Astros are in right now. I'm not sure if the window is closed in terms of being competitive, because I feel like they can still do something similar to what they did last year. Win a weak division and then have an early exit out of the playoffs, out of the postseason. I feel like they're still roughly in position to do something like that. But if they won a World Series, man, I'd be shocked. I'd be shocked.
And when you look at it, so like letting Correa walk, okay, you can let Correa walk because you knew that you had a Jeremy Pena. Like he showed you so much that he was ready. And I mean, think about it. The guy comes in and wins the World Series MVP. So you're like, I might be able to get rid of, Correa. So because I know I got his backup. You know what? Even if we lose what George Springer gave us in the outfield, okay, we can get rid of we can get rid of George Springer because we still got Kyle Tucker out there who can, even though he plays right field, he still, is in the outfield. He still can cover a lot of ground, but he's still a very, very good all-star, right fielder. So, okay, so we can get rid of Correa because we got Pena. We can get rid of Springer because we still got Tucker out there. So now you get rid of who's playing third base for the Astros this year?
Isaac Paredes.
Yeah.
Isaac Paredes.
Who's playing?
Yeah, and look, he's an okay player, but look, suffice it to say, he's not Alex Bregman. No.
Right. So okay, so who's playing right field for them this year?
Chas McCormick, the chump. Chas McCormick.
The one that was going the day that he was, the day before he was headed towards going back to the minor leagues when Michael Brantley was here. Michael Brantley got hurt, and that was the only reason he was able to stay in the big leagues. And don't get me wrong, I like Chas. Chas has had his moments, but everybody got upset when Dusty said, "Hey man, this guy's good, but he's not ready. This guy's good, but he's not ready." And they killed Dusty for that, called him all kind of stuff. And then, I don't think Chas had a great season last year.
No, he was a borderline major leaguer, as you say. He was a borderline major leaguer. Now those seasons that he was with Dusty were his best seasons, but he ended up validating Dusty's feelings and comments about him in the subsequent season by showing you the drop off that he still had a ways to go.
Dusty said about Jake Myers when he said, "Hey man, this guy can play, but he's not ready yet, especially coming off this injury. He hasn't been through spring training, anything like that." And they killed Dusty for that. And then Dusty said, you got to give him time. And then after they gave him time, Jake Myers became a pretty good center fielder. Who's playing left field for them again?
Bro, how Jose Altuve? how
You
you feel
moving
about
out?
like can you imagine? To me, this has got to be the most. And look, if Jose Altuve, we know he'll do whatever he got to do for the team. But I'll be damned if they go out there and embarrass that man like that and put him out there in the outfield, man. Can you believe they even talking about this, man?
Bro, hold on. And they're gonna what? Jordan is just gonna DH, right?
Yeah. Jordan, who likes to play in the outfield, by the way.
And you know so crazy, B? You know how like you know how in left field for the Astros, they got the guy out there that keeps the score, the little green board out there that keeps the score.
Yeah.
I don't even know if Jose Altuve can jump to the team that's top of the board. If they hit a fly ball out there, B, if they hit it like to the top one, he's not gonna be able to. He's too short.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure, and I know he could. Like, can Altuve still cover the field like that? Does he still have that type of speed with the amount of years he's been in the league?
Yeah, man. He close to my age, man. Look, Altuve can jump. The issue ain't the jumping. It's like you say, it's the height. It's like he could jump as high as he want. He still is 5'6" at the most. At the most. Like, if we being generous there. So, man, that's
what I'm saying, B. All I'm saying is
they got issues. They got issues.
They got issues. And you made another one now because it's no fair to Paredes because once he doesn't play like Alex Bregman, he's gonna get killed by the media and the fans.
Yeah.
So Jim Crane. Well, Jim Crane got killed all last year with the Bagwell hire of Jose Abreu. So I mean, it is what it is. I just don't I don't think that. And one more thing I want to ask, and this isn't a popular question, but I'll ask it to you. You don't have to answer it if you don't want to be, but I gotta answer it. You think a spot is the right person to lead this team?
Yeah, man. You know what? I feel like he would have been more right to lead a team that was more like the one that they had. Right? Like to me, he's fine enough of a baseball guy to lead a well put together baseball team. But when it starts leaking like it is, can he press the right buttons? Does he have the answers? Are there answers? Right? Like, and man, like whether he is or not, it might be unfair to him and unfair to anybody to have to kind of, operate in that space of, all right, now I got to put together the scraps, like a team that is the way we just described it. But man, I thought that Espada had a rough start, but that things came together. Like I couldn't watch the way that they pulled things together and not give the manager some level of credit. But again, man, I would have liked him a lot better with a team that had Kyle Tucker, Alex Bregman, like the right to already have the right buttons. I don't know if he can play the keys and the keys not there,
Right.
Like you're like, I got this keyboard in front of me, man. If I want to type J, but the J don't work, so I can't type Jordans now. They ordinance, right? So
like use a G.
Use a G. Yeah. So
Gordon.
now it's gonna be Gordon's and it's gonna be misspelled. So do I think he can type? Sure. Do I think he has a good typewriter? Do I think his keyboard is a little jacked up? Yeah. I think that's gonna affect things, man. I would like Joe Espada a lot better if he had better pieces around.
One more thing before we go, B. You didn't want to pay Alex Bregman. When last time Lance McCullers pitched?
I can't defend that contract neither. Man, Alex Bregman ain't pit, man. I'm trying to think, man, how much life has changed in more ways than I would even like to acknowledge and accept. Life has changed
a lot. Last time McCullers pitched? Since
McCullers pitched, man. It's been that long, man. We rolling up on 3 years.
Because he got hurt that series against the White Sox. Was it the White Sox series he got hurt?
Well, that was the first time he got hurt. Okay. But then, so the last time he pitched, I'm pretty sure it was the 2022 World Series game 3 or 4. One of those, whatever spot he would have been up, is the last time I can remember him when they played the Phillies, the one that they won.
Yeah.
But I feel like he got hurt after that, and we ain't seen him since.
Yep.
You know, and so
I mean, I've seen him at HEB a lot, but other than that,
seen him at award shows, seen him a little bit. Like I know he got a wine or a coffee shop, or so, you know, all of the Astros apparently are businessmen. Apparently, they all got something going on. So I know he got all of that going on. But yeah, man, I'm with you though. Just to wrap this up, I'm with you on the window being closed for World Series. You know, like you can cop out and say, hey, if you win your division and you're in the postseason and the window is open for you to win the World Series, I get that. But I see a world where they can win this division, go to the postseason. I do not see a world where they're taking down whoever the American League best turned out to be this year. Yeah. And we know it can change from year to year, but we feel the Yankees are going to be right there, even with losing Juan Soto, right? I think they brought in, did they bring in Cody Bellinger? I feel like they've done some stuff. So like the best teams in them, bro, they got swept by the Tigers last year, bro. You know what I'm saying?
AJ Hinch.
Yeah. So I feel like that's what their ceiling is now. That's what the window is. Going to the postseason and getting swept in the opening round. This is Big Sarge Sports holding it down, dog. Man, tell them people where to find you, dog.
Now you can find me on the app formerly known as Twitter at Big Sarge Sports with the Z at the end. Follow me on the Tick and the Talk at Big Sarge Media. Follow me on Instagram at Big Sarge Sports with the Z at the end. You know we do everything. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel at Big Sarge Media, and subscribe to Locked On Texans podcast. And I kind of do this every day. That's like a whole little routine.
Man, that is my guy, Big Sarge. Man, nobody has the sign off quite like, hey, the formerly known as Twitter. I cannot get enough of that, man. Hey, Sarge, man, I appreciate you for joining me, man. This was fun, dog. We definitely got to do this more often. Carve out the space and the time. That's one thing we gonna ensure for the audience right now, for the B Block podcast audience, for the Big Sarge Sports Media audience, Locked On Texans, everybody. We're gonna commit to y'all to make more time and space to do stuff like this and to be with the people, man. So I appreciate you, dog.
I'm glad. Hey, real quick, I'm glad you said that because we need to book you for Locked On Texans this week. And since you just said, make the commitment, we'll talk about that off air.
Bruh, y'all call, I come running. That's Big Sarge.
All right.
From Hiram Clark, these got from Hiram Clark. Do the Hiram Clark, do the Hiram Clark, do it. Do the Hiram Clark, do the Hiram